What's up, welcome back to the channel. My name is Servida and today we're gonna fix some melodies. This video is brought to you by Melodies. Melodies is a desktop app that teaches you how to play the piano. All you need is a MIDI controller. Not only is this app great for learning to play piano, it's also a great tool to help you understand music theory along the way. After playing a few lessons, not only will it improve your piano playing skills, but it will also give you a lot of ideas for new bass lines, chord progressions, and melodies. And once you know how to play the piano, a lot of opportunities open up to you as a producer. For example, your workflow is going to be much faster. You can start incorporating this new skill at live shows. You will no longer need to rely on a session musician, or you could be that session musician. The possibilities are endless. Here I'm playing one of the lessons. I'm doing one of the harder difficulties because I'm nice with the keys. The interface overall is really good and it kind of just feels like I'm playing a game. If you want this app, all you have to do is click the first link in the description. It is free to download. Alright, this first melody is by Gaston. So this first one is by Gaston. He said it's one of his favorite melodies he's ever made, but it might be a bit too repetitive. I loaded up a kalimba patch in Omnisphere, so let's give it a listen. Yeah, this one's a really good melody. I think it just needs a bit of cleaning up. So as always, we're gonna duplicate the melody and work on the second half so you can see the before and after. So the first thing I wanna focus on is the top melody. It's kind of going all over the place, so I just wanna make it a bit more pronounced. So what I'm doing is really simple. I'm just filling the notes and adding them in. So it's gonna be a much smoother melody line instead of it just jumping all over the place. He also did mention it's a bit repetitive, so all I'm gonna do is add a second melody on top. Then all I'm doing here is just using the chord tones and just varying the rhythm so it just contrasts the melody a bit more. So now the top is done, so let's clean up this bottom half. So as you can see here, the C sharp and the C are touching. Now if we took out the C, the chord would be much cleaner and it would sound like this. But what I'm gonna do instead is take out the C sharp so we can get this suspended second sound. It makes the chord more interesting because we're giving it a bit of tension. This chord's kind of weird because of this 8 here, so what I'm gonna do instead is just change this to an F major 7. Now, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but he has this note here that's just kind of moved over slightly, and it gives it a really cool sound. So I'm just gonna get random notes in the melody and stagger them throughout so we can get that really cool texture throughout the whole thing. Overall, pretty minor changes, but let's listen to the before and after. So this next melody is by Harish. He said he was figuring out this melody while I was playing the keyboard. I just loaded it up on a piano, so let's hear it now. Yeah, I like this one too. It's a really nice melody. I'm just gonna add a couple more things to it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to extend the chords at the top so they're more sustained. And for this last chord here, I'm going to invert it so that bottom note doesn't interfere with the melody. Now I'm gonna even up the velocity so I can just find a really good spot for it. Editor, make this look cool. Now I'm going to use the strum tool to give it more realism, and I'm actually doing different strum patterns for every other chord so that there's even more variation. Another thing I'm adding is just little accent notes on top, just making the melody a bit more colorful. Now the notes at the bottom are just playing octaves, and I think we can give this some more harmonic content, so I'm going to add the 5th and the 3rd and apply that to every chord. Let's listen to that now. Definitely a bit muddy at the bottom end, so all I'm gonna do is move this up a couple keys until we find a really good spot for them. I kept the melody exactly the same, but I changed everything around it to give it more color. So now let's hear the before and after. This next melody is by Jacob P. He said he can't really play the piano. Okay, so the BPM is 140 and I loaded up this Omnisphere plug, so let's give it a listen. yeah, this is great. I'm a really big fan of this chord progression. Right now it's a little cluttered, so what I'm gonna do is kind of separate the chord progression and the melody. So I'm gonna move the melody up an octave and I'm going to leave the chord progression where it is. So the problem with this one is definitely within the melody. It's too robotic. There's no pauses, there's no rest, there's no variation. It's just 8 notes, 8 notes, 8 notes, and then, oh, look at that 8 notes. What's that, an 8th note? I think if we change this up a bit, we can make this a really nice accompaniment, then find a second melody to lead on top of it. The chord progression at the bottom is perfect. We're gonna leave that exactly how it is. The melody in the first bar is really good, so we're gonna keep it as it is, and we're actually gonna make this the structure for the rest of the bars. So if we're following the first bar, we're gonna have a rest, then arpeggiate the chord, rest, arpeggiate the chord, rest, arpeggiate the chord. Then I'm gonna bring the velocity of the top notes down so the lead has more space. So I'm getting a really R&B vibe out of this, so I'm just gonna load up Serum and make a simple lead. So all I'm gonna do is load up a sine wave. I'm making sure to toggle on mono, legato, portamento so I can make it slide. I'm putting in this LFO on the cutoff here, so the lead is just going to open up during that initial attack. In terms of the lead melody, I just came up with it in my head, and I'm making sure to use those passing notes to really complement the slides. Okay, now let's listen to the before and after. Okay, this last melody is by 17. He said there might be a couple things missing. BPM 160, Omnisphere guitar. Let's hear it. The first thing I'm gonna do is just bring it up a few keys so we can get rid of that muddiness in the sample instrument. I think the melody is great, so I'm not gonna touch that. I'm just gonna focus on everything else. Now, if you look at this middle section here, he's just playing 2 chords throughout. The G sharp, the C sharp, and the E make C sharp minor, and then the G sharp, the C, and the D sharp make G sharp major. Now, normally that would get repetitive, but if you look under, you can see this bass line doing its own thing, and these bass notes are changing the color of the chord completely. Now, I have a little problem with this E in the bass. The E is part of the C sharp minor chord, which makes it an inversion. Now, I would much rather have this on the root note because the chord previous to that is the dominant, so it'd be a much stronger cadence if we go to the C sharp. Now, the second inversion sounds good to me, and we can do something really cool where we cut it in half and we move the second half up to the root note. As a root note, it sounds really good with the chord, but it also acts as a good passing note when we go back to the A. I see a couple overlapping notes in the middle here, and we do have a bit of space right in between the bass line and the chords, so let's try and put another melody right here. Once again, I'm keeping this melody really simple. I'm using chord tones, and I'm contrasting the main melody at the top here. Really simple changes. Let's listen to the before and after. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to submit your melody for the next episode, I'm going to have the instructions in the description. Also, let me know what other videos you'd like to see me use with the green screen. Yeah, that's about it. So I'll see you guys soon. If you have any suggestions, leave a comment. If you like this video, leave a like. If you really like this video, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, leave. Just leave. Get out of here.